Things are rainy and cold out here in Virginia, but things are nice and toasty and hot down at the winter meetings in Texas. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, joined per usual by Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, happy Wednesday, my friend.
Hump day?
Does anyone remember that commercial anymore, or is that past?
I think it's mostly past, but when that commercial was out, it was a big deal in my office for like a year. So it will forever be stuck in my head.
You know, a commercial is a big deal when the company will like bring it back as like a running bit, like Geico and the Caveman. Like I saw that camel
one pisses
so many times.
Me off. I'm not gonna lie.
It's ran its course.
Everyone is so mean to that Caveman.
Everyone
like, yeah, there was a time when it was like, dude, okay, I get it. You're suing Geico. I'm over you. But now everyone's just like, let me bring up Geico under every conceivable circumstance.
Hating on the Caveman for no reason. Well,
leave him alone. Leave Brittany alone. That's his name now. Brittany alone. There's another old meme.
Oof, yeah, we are really in the deep cuts here. If you want some more deep cuts related to the Royals, though, you can go find it over at royalsreview.com. A lot of great news, analysis, and commentary over there. I'd highly encourage you all to go post a fan post if you have a hot take regarding the Royals. What do you got, Jeremy?
I'm sorry. Even worse than the Caveman commercials are the training commercials. And the guy, like, he does something. He's doing the finger on the screen and then he's like, I heard it. I pulled something. And then the gecko's like giving him a little massage on a tiny little massage bed. No, stop it.
Insurance companies really know how to do marketing, huh?
No,
we're not going down that hole.
I refuse to get Geico because of these commercials now.
Fair enough.
Not because I have a better deal through another insurance service.
All right. Well, maybe you can find a different insurance service on the many ads over at royalsreview.com then. How's that?
Is that supposed to be like a, hey, go check out Royals Review? They got lots of ads. I hear y'all watch the Super Bowl for the ads. There's ads on Royals Review.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to keep there's a reason why our podcast artwork is what it is. Okay, I'm trying to steer this bus back on the road.
Good luck.
I know, right? Well, one way that I did derail before we get into the Royal stuff, one way that I did derail the podcast last week, thanks to Steve Patry for letting me know this. Apparently, the author, the journalist of the book that I reviewed last episode is in prison for domestic violence.
Who wrote that book?
Jonah Carey.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't ever hear his name. I only read his name. So yeah, I didn't pick that up either. Sorry.
So no, you don't have to apologize. I'm the one apologizing right now. So I am sorry about that. I had no idea before Steve pointed it out. So thank you, Steve, for educating me on that. I do appreciate it. All right, let's get back into Royals stuff. But well, I mean, Jeremy, does this relate to the Royals, the revenue stuff? I mean, you gotta tell our listeners about this.
All right, so the news came out on The Athletic. I do not remember who was doing the reporting. I'm going to guess it was Evan Drellich because he usually covers the money stuff. That the Athletics, we were kind of making fun of them for signing,
Luis Severino,
because they paid a lot of money for Luis Severino, and it feels like they probably overpaid. And I asked on social media, I said, is this the bad team tax, or is this a bad team taxing themselves by just spending too much on a mediocre player? And the answer I got resoundingly was both. So there's that. But one thing that came out is that one of the reasons they were willing to spend that much on him is because they have to spend at least $105 million on their payroll this year, or they risk having a grievance filed against them by the MLBPA. So it turns out there is something of a revenue floor. It's like, it's not guaranteed. I don't know what would happen if a grievance was filed. It's not in the rules that way. But then again, the luxury tax isn't in the rules as a salary cap, and yet it acts as one.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that this is, not enough of a floor, especially because what it turns out is you have to do 1.5 times whatever amount of revenue sharing you get. So the Athletics get a full share of the revenue sharing, 70 million. So their payroll has to be at least 105 million, or else they're in trouble. They're going to get a grievance filed against them. And again, I don't know exactly what that would result in, but it seems clear that the Athletics do not want that. So they're willing to go out and pay a lot of money for Luis Severino, and they're still at 70 something, so they're going to have to spend more. So that got me thinking about the Royals. And I can't prove this. I haven't been able to do the research to figure out what percentage of a revenue sharing share the Royals get. I believe it's the maximum share, though, because they're in such a small market. So if they're also getting $70 million in revenue sharing, they're also required to spend $105 million on their payroll. This is new for the latest collective bargaining agreement, by the way. It was not that high on the previous one.
Okay.
So if they're required to spend 105 and they keep their payroll at 120, as Ken Rosenthal said that they might do in another Athletic article, that's pretty embarrassing. That's not spending money. That's not seeking opportunities to win. That's doing the bare minimum plus a couple mil.
Yeah.
And so hopefully the Royals respect their fans more than that. We believed that that's what we saw last year with the way that they spent money. I still have to believe that they spent a lot of money last year. They didn't have to spend just to reach that threshold, and money that they didn't have to spend, on a long-term deal for a Bobby Witt Jr. You don't have to do that to convince people to fund your stadium, because that's long-term spending. That's not adding a new player. And if all you care about is bringing in money, then spending money like that doesn't help you. So I have to believe that that's the case. And I have to believe that the Royals are going to come back and spend some more this offseason. Just to that point, David Lesky had another newsletter yesterday where he kind of confirmed the Brett Baty rumors we've been talking about. But he said that if that happens, he doesn't think that's the move to lengthen the lineup. It's just a move that might work out. And I think it makes sense why the Royals, first of all, locked up Michael Wacha, because we see with the Severino deal, we see with the Yusei Kikuchi deal, we see with the deal that just happened, I think last night, Nathan Eovaldi with the Rangers, wanting to say Texas Rangers, that guys in the same tier as Wacha are getting a lot more than Wacha did. So that worked out, and it makes sense why the Royals aren't going after guys. I was like, maybe they should go after Cobb, but he got 15 when he was projected to get 10.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still do that, but is it worth it? I don't know. And you still got to find that bat somewhere. So hopefully they're still looking for that bat. And then once they have that, they can go shopping in the Michael Lorenzen tier, maybe look at some other guys that might have some rebound seasons that they might be able to help.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just the basic idea of realizing that there is a rule in the CBA that says if you don't spend at least 1.5 times your revenue sharing amount on player salaries, you're going to get a grievance filed against you. And I think the Royals are not very high over that, and hopefully that means they're going to spend more, because they don't want to be the Athletics.
No.
Do they?
No, not at all, especially looking at the stadium situation. Like we saw how years of penny pinching and just poor negotiations out west just hurt the Athletics franchise standing amongst fans. Like I remember thinking back to the early 2010s, and like I liked the Athletics. It was like they're fun to watch. At least I didn't know much about the front office or anything like that at that time. But as years went on, that reputation declined rapidly, and it was thanks to that penny pinching and there's a level of transactional, and they were just getting way above that to the point of where it was just cruel is what I would say.
I feel like they're kind of running their team right now the way that the Royals were run before when they didn't have an owner for a while, after Ewing Kauffman died and before David Glass bought the team while he was still running the committee or whatever, and so they just didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So it's just awful.
It is. So not saying that the Royals are doing that, but that is something that fans should be aware of at least.
Yeah. It's something that if they end up not spending this offseason, it's something I will be writing about when we get to spring training.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Something to keep an eye on, basically. Not like the Royals are bad, but more like keep an eye. Like you gotta hold these guys' feet to the fire.
Yep.
Because you can't trust them unless they're Steve Cohen, apparently.
Apparently so, man. That guy is digging deep in his pockets. I saw a rumor out there that they're still going after Pete Alonso after signing Juan Soto. So
yeah,
we will see what happens there. But there are some Royals transactions to be spoken of today. So in the last podcast episode, I reminded listeners that the Rule 5 draft was happening Wednesday afternoon. I tossed out some names. Unfortunately, the Royals went ahead and passed on their slot in the Rule 5 draft, so they didn't add anyone to the Major League roster. However, they did lose Noah Murdock.
Not Noah Cameron.
Nope, not Noah Cameron.
I just want to make sure that's very explicitly clear.
Yes.
Not Noah Cameron, not the guy we all think is going to be in the rotation at some point in 2025.
Correct. Cameron is protected on the 40-man roster. This was Murdoch's first year of Rule 5 eligibility, if I recall correctly. 2019 7th round pick. Definitely did good things with AAA Omaha last year. Like you look at the ERA. I think he had a 3.76 ERA across like 30 games with the Storm Chasers. Solid stuff. But you go and you look at the command just is not there right now. Striking out 46, but also walking 26. It's just the ratios aren't there. Like he's not the guy that you want to elevate to the Major League roster. But apparently the Athletics that we spoke of think that they can do something with him at the Major League level. So we will see how long he sticks with the Athletics, but best of luck to him. In the minor league portion of the draft, the Royals did get a little busy, adding 2 players to their system. They selected outfielder Brian Gonzalez from the Boston Red Sox and right-handed pitcher Landon Marceau from the New York Mets. Both guys mid-20s. Gonzalez is a 23-year-old. Had a 2015 season in 2024 at high A, so we'll see what happens there. I mean, he's kind of old to be in high A.
You said he had a 2015 season at 2020?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
20 home runs, 15
home runs, 15 stolen bases. I was like, how does one have the year 2015 in the year 2020? What does that mean?
Well, he had that in 2024, but we'll see if he goes up the system at all. Oh, injuries have hurt him. But we'll see if the Royals can get him back on the right track as a starter. Pretty nondescript Rule 5 draft. Honestly, that's kind of how most of them go. The big name, I guess, was Cooper Bowman, picked by the Reds from the Athletic system, which was kind of surprising. They tend to elevate their prospects a little faster than most just because of that penny pinching that we're talking about. But the other draft that happened was, well, the draft lottery, that is, which for the first time in a while, the Royals were not involved in the lottery selection process, which is kind of nice.
I didn't pay any attention to it. Didn't matter to me. Didn't matter to the Royals.
Exactly. The Royals, they were going to pick 23rd the entire time. We knew that from the word go. The Washington Nationals left Texas with the top overall pick, so that should be interesting to see what direction that organization goes. The Seattle Mariners were one of the biggest risers in the draft lottery. I think they had a 0.53% chance of getting the top overall pick, and they ended up launching up to 3rd overall. So that's a massive jump for them. So we'll see what they do with that. But it's weird. I'm just not used to the lottery still and all the rules around it. You know, the White Sox definitely had the worst season in Major League Baseball last year, but they're picking 10.
I have a hard time feeling too bad for them after seeing the Garrett Crochet trade they made earlier today.
Yeah, if y'all missed that, man, that is a massive, massive haul. How many first rounders did you say, Jeremy?
They got each of the Red Sox last 2 first rounders. They got Kyle Teal from the 2023 draft, and they got the guy Braden Montgomery from the 2024 draft.
Just insane.
And then a couple other guys, I believe, also that I don't know.
Yeah, so left-handed pitcher Garrett Crochet, definitely the prize gem on that White Sox roster right now. Heading to Boston, I think this is a pipe. Should we be talking about the White Sox to Red Sox pipeline first? It's Chris Sale. Now it's Garrett Crochet. Goodness gracious.
Well, the Red Sox better hope that this works out better than the Chris Sale stuff worked out.
Hopefully so.
He was hurt almost the entire time he was there. He was not as effective. And then, of course, they were like, fine, we give up. They trade him to Atlanta. And what is he? He wins his first Cy Young.
Yeah, no big deal at all. But going back to the White Sox, like Jeremy said, catcher Kyle Teal, outfielder Braden Montgomery, infielder Chase Marriage Roth, I think is how you say his last name, and right-hander Wickelman Gonzalez. I definitely know that those top three names are all top 8 prospects in the Red Sox system. So this is just a massive haul for the rebuilding White Sox.
I think most Royals fans will remember Teal because all of our prospect hounds were like, Teal, not Mitchell, Teal, take Teal, Teal, get Teal. And then they had him, he was there, and then they decided to go with Mitchell instead. So we're still waiting to see how that works out. But yeah, so he's a bright star.
He is. He really is. 25th best prospect in all of baseball, according to Baseball America. Left-handed hitter. He reached AAA this year. He was, just his slash lines at AA were great. 299 batting average, 390 OBP with a 462 slugging. Like a very well-rounded guy, and should absolutely be on the White Sox 26-man roster before the middle of the season.
With catchers, they went and traded for a top catching prospect from the Astros at one point too. I forgot his name.
I do as well. I'm blanking.
Yeah, he's not even catching for them most of the time. I think he was playing in the outfield last time I looked.
Right. But all in all, White Sox, they're not going anywhere. Crochet, at least, hopefully has a chance of contending with the Red Sox. It seems like the Red Sox are just missing on guys left and right in free agency so far. So hopefully they have a couple of big moves to supplant that roster. But one big move that the Royals fan base can take off of their radar is Nolan Arenado. He released his list of teams that he is willing to go to, and it did not include the Kansas City Royals.
Aw, shucks.
Darn. Yeah, I made the case. I was like, can squint and see it happening, but it's not the end of the world that the veteran is not willing to come across the state to Kansas City, I think.
Now, I was never like, you want to talk Arenado from 3 years ago? Sure.
Yeah.
But this Arenado, we've got a guy with a good glove who can't hit, but he's got speed.
True.
So
he's cheap.
Yeah, and he's cheap.
Yeah.
So we don't need Arenado. We have Arenado at home.
He announced that he is willing to go to the Los Angeles Angels, the Los Angeles Dodgers, San Diego Padres. Yeah, I know. That was kind of surprising. The San Diego
Padres, like LA, baby.
Maybe. I mean, shoot, it's a nice big market.
I might as well lose in LA.
To be fair, he is from Newport Beach, California. So that
makes sense. Yeah.
Like that's kind of home, I would say. That's why he probably included the San Diego Padres. The Philadelphia
Padres are good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're good and local, like the Dodgers.
Yeah. I mean, like if you say Padres and Dodgers, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You say Angels, and I'm like, there's a different reason here.
Rounding out the list: Philadelphia Phillies, New York Mets, and Boston Red Sox. So
the Yankees, huh?
Not the Yankees, which is kind of surprising, but that's all right.
The Yankees are really tied, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that is fair. Definitely a closer competition than the ALDS was. Looking at this, I did tweet out. I was looking like, hey, it'd be kind of fun if the Royals got in on like a 3-team trade with the Angels and the Mets in this process. Looking at guys like Taylor Ward and someone that you've spoken a lot about, Jeremy Greco, Brett Baty from the New York Mets. You know, what's the latest that you're hearing on Baty and the Royals?
So again, from Lesky's newsletter, he did mention Carlos Hernandez was a potential guy to be included in a Brett Baty trade. It's unclear. It's probably not a 1-for-1 swap. So is Hernandez the main guy? Is he the sweetener? Unclear. We also noted that apparently Royals relievers are drawing trade interest because Angel Zerpa is also being called about by some teams. And honestly, I'm starting to think I would like them to trade Zerpa.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I loved watching Zerpa pitch last year. He's got a good attitude out there. He's got good stuff. But one thing that keeps coming up is he doesn't have strikeouts. And that is something you want from your relievers is strikeouts. And it's something that if you don't have, seems like they're more likely to regress.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wants to pay for Angel Zerpa, like he's the elite reliever he looked like last year outside of that like month of being truly awful, I would absolutely deal him while his value is still high before the lack of strikeouts comes back to bite him. Now, it could have come back to bite the Royals because it could turn out, oh, the strikeouts were there, they just hadn't shown up yet.
Yeah.
Because he has good stuff. He's got a nasty slider. He's got a 98-mile-an-hour fastball coming from the left side that he's not afraid to throw anywhere on the plate. So if they don't trade him, I'm fine with that. Carlos Hernandez is also an interesting case. He's a guy that, again, I don't hate trading because he's never quite been able to put it together. But on the other hand, he did kind of start to look like he was putting it together in his last kind of trip to the big leagues last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that stuff. He's got his spin rates, his pitch shapes are improving. So he's a guy, a same kind of deal as Zerpa. If he's a guy that the Royals keep, great, cool. We're not asking either one of them to close right now. Probably not even set up with Hunter Harvey coming back healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so having those guys in middle relief, great, cool. Things could go really well, and they probably can't hurt us that much. But if someone wants to pay for them like they're setup guys, and you trade them, you could get a lot of value there and sign some middle relief somewhere else. There are guys out there who can fill in those spots in free agency still.
Exactly. And I'm stuck on Carlos Hernandez not having any more minor league options this year. So he's definitely that doesn't help with that roster flexibility that the Royals are prioritizing right now. And if you go pivoting back to Zerpa real quick, the Royals are really deep right now when it comes to the left-handed pitching. I mean, you got Evan Sisk, who was lights out at Omaha last year, added to the 40-man roster. Sam Long is he going to pick right up where he left off. Chris Bubich, Daniel Lynch, Noah Cameron. Like, I know those last three are primary starters right now, but we saw Bubich and Lynch in the bullpen, and they looked more than competent in those roles. So would the Royals like to keep them there? All in all, Zerpa is not as value is.
I think Bubich is going to be in the rotation.
I think he is as well.
They've pretty much said we always planned for him to come back and be a starter. It just basically there wasn't room for him in the rotation. So and he was coming off the injuries, they were working him back slow. So I don't think we're going to see him in the bullpen unless things go very wrong.
True. Speaking of starting, it wouldn't be too crazy if a team looked at Zerpa at only 25 years old, a lot of starting experience across his career. Maybe they can extend him back out. So that's definitely something to watch. It might be a more underrated move at this point in the offseason, but that's okay. Go ahead.
If the Royals are going to try and trade for that outfield bat, which is still what the word on the street is, then a Zerpa or a Hernandez would be a place where the Royals can afford to trade from that another team might find interesting.
Very true. Very true. Another pitcher that is being talked about a lot at winter meetings right now is Roki Sasaki, the 23-year-old Japanese right-hander who was officially posted earlier this month. And his agent, Joel Wolf, he kind of opened up the doors. A lot of fan bases out there are hopeful that their team could be in the mix, talking about, when the pitcher wants to sign, his statements about he might not be against a smaller mid-market team if it's a more comfortable landing spot for him. I did see some comments out there. It's like, oh, well, why has the media been tough on Sasaki if he wants to possibly avoid the big markets? Well, from my understanding, he was very open about his intention to come to MLB early on from his professional. And that was not taken very well in the Japanese media. And it's hard to fault the media for that. But if you're a young guy and all you're hearing is this negativity, no matter how great you are, simply because you want to go make more money and face better competition, that takes a toll. It does. So if you can avoid that, again, say like some of these markets that have bad reputations, at least well, they might not be as
Yankees,
enticing.
the Phillies.
Right, exactly. Which I don't, I can't speak to it. I haven't worked with a whole lot of folks from those markets.
One city that has a media that is famously almost too friendly to the team and its players.
Who's that?
The Kansas City Royals media community. Now, we're not always, but we're kind of outside the traditional media, but we've certainly, or at least I have, I won't speak for you, Jacob. I've criticized them as going a little too soft on the Royals at times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm also, for what it's worth, on record on Blue Sky now is saying if the Royals somehow got Roki Sasaki, that I don't care what else they do the rest of this offseason, because it would just be so cool to have him on the team.
It definitely would. This is certainly a very interesting spot for any team to go out and get Sasaki because of his age right now. There's a limit to what a team is able to pay him, that international bonus pool. But when you do that, you're essentially getting him for 6 years. And this is an elite pitcher in Japan. This isn't a guy who
throws triple digits.
Yeah.
Nasty sinker. Think about if the Royals added a slider to his repertoire.
Hey, I'm just dreaming on that fork ball right now, okay? How long has it been since I've seen a good fork ball in Major League Baseball?
The Royals rotation, if they added Sasaki, however you say his name.
Yeah, Sasaki.
He would instantly become at least their number 2 pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
I think Seth Lugo, second in the Cy Young voting, would drop to the 3rd pitcher. Michael Wacha would become 4th.
Yes.
Who's scoring runs against the Royals?
They're doing it against the bullpen if they're scoring, I'll tell you that much. But Andy Rogers did clarify the situation a little bit, saying, quote, the Royals have done their due diligence on Sasaki and have had conversations about what a deal would look like. Now, that's not saying that the Royals are actively engaged in negotiations or they're one of the leaders or anything like that.
There's a lot to happen here. This is not a quick moving situation. First of all, he can't actually sign until the international signing period opens in January.
Right.
I think it's January 15th.
Yep, January 15th.
We got some time here. What I understood is that he's going to have a meeting with all of the teams at one point and then settle on some front runners and then go to visit their cities. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing really to know yet until we see what cities does he choose to visit. Yeah. Maybe Kansas City could be one of them. If it's pure money situation, the Royals are in the 2nd tier of available money to spend in international signings. Mm-hmm. So that is a positive in their favor. They can't spend the most, but they can get close.
Yes, they can.
And his agent is also on the record as saying, I told him, don't necessarily prioritize this contract. This isn't the contract that's going to make you all the money. Mm-hmm. Prioritize, finding a good fit for you, getting in there, competing, succeeding. The big contract will come later.
Yes.
When this first contract's up. So that's like, he's basically telling everyone, your pitch isn't about money. Your pitch is about why should he want to pitch for you regardless of money.
Right. And this is definitely, I know we're probably looking too deep into this. I'm sure the listeners are out there like, well, they're not even going to sign
keep
him.
Dreaming.
Yes. And like you said, that January 15th signing period, well, Sasaki's negotiating window closes on January 3rd. So this is going to possibly develop very, very quickly.
I would think because he can negotiate now, but he can't sign until the 15th, he will probably sign immediately on the 15th.
Probably so.
But if you're looking for a good situation, I think the Royals have, and you're trying to avoid big media a little bit, I think the Royals make a lot of sense for him. I mean, they're not the only team, but they're one of them that have, as I've already talked about, a friendly media. And I think their pitching coaching is some of the best in baseball right now. I don't know another coach. Maybe the Pirates, do they still have the same pitching coaches that they had like 10 years ago? But there's a handful of teams that have some really good pitching coaches. But I think the Royals are clearly in the top 3rd, if not higher, of MLB right now.
Absolutely.
So if I'm a young pitcher looking to come over to the big leagues and find kind of a soft landing spot and a place where I can really hone my craft with some big league coaches, you could do a lot worse than the Royals.
Yeah.
Hopefully they make that pitch successfully.
Hopefully so.
And we see what happens from there.
All in all, Royals leadership are leaving Texas right now after a pretty quiet winter meetings for them. No moves made. The Piccolo and Quatrero, they're both really preaching the opportunistic and you have to improve where you can, when you can, things like that. I get it. It's definitely a disappointing tone though amongst Royals fans though, especially after the postseason berth and you're hoping to see another aggressive step forward. Well, it happens. It'll happen when it happens.
I said this last time, and the further we go on, and again, reading Lesky's newsletter today, if y'all aren't subscribed to his newsletter, get on it. He's got the stuff. He's got the juice, okay? Reading his newsletter, I really do feel like the Royals are being aggressive out there. They're just not making the moves yet. And I think it's smart because as we were talking about on our last podcast, and I think I said this also on our last podcast, everybody's getting a lot of money right now. So this is the seller's market portion of the offseason. But there are a lot of valuable players out there that aren't necessarily at the top tier. A Jurickson Profar is a guy that the Royals could be really interested in, but he's definitely a step below a Teoscar Hernandez and Anthony Santander. So until those guys sign, he's probably not going to sign anyway. And so then how much they get and then how long the offseason goes depends on, tells you how much they could spend on him. Also, teams are going to want to see what they can do in free agency before they necessarily try to trade. Although I did hear a rumor that the Angels are very close to trading an outfielder.
Yeah.
Unclear which outfielder, but if it was Taylor Ward or Mike Trout, I would be very excited about that for the Royals.
I would as well.
Yeah, so think that they're still doing a lot of talking. They just haven't finalized anything yet because they're waiting for the money to calm down, or they're waiting for teams to go, okay, yeah, the free agent stuff isn't working the way we want. We will trade now. So I'm trying to be patient. I encourage all of you to be patient. I know it's hard. Trust me, patience is not my strong suit. Like if you look at my D&D character sheet at patience, it's like -2. Okay. Oof. So just we're going to get through this.
Yeah, that we will.
And if the Royals really don't make any moves, we can complain right before spring training. We don't got to. This is the thing I was preaching all season, right? Yeah, the Royals might miss the playoffs, but they probably won't. And why borrow trouble and disappointment now when we can just be like, yeah, they're still in a playoff spot. That's pretty cool.
Right. So all in all, no matter what happens, you can get through it with fellow Royals fans over at royalsreview.com. I'm sure that if a move does or doesn't happen, we will be writing about it and we will have some very, very well put together opinions about it between Jeremy, Max, Matthew, the rest of the team over there. I just read through Greg's piece on the Arizona Fall League pitching metrics. That's definitely a good insight into those pitchers and how they perform down there in the desert. So go check out royalsreview.com. You won't regret it. You can also follow along with them on Twitter, Facebook, and Blue Sky at Royals Review. Jeremy, what do you say? Should we get to some reviews?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, I will go ahead and start us off again today. Now, I did vet this author before I'm talking about the book this go around. I've learned my lesson. It is called Revenge of the Tipping Point: Overstory Super Spreaders and the Rise of Social Engineering by Malcolm Gladwell. Now, when I went into this, I didn't realize that this is a part of a, I would say, series overall. All in all, Gladwell came out with a book called The Tipping Point: How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference back in 2002. And he was starting to put together an addendum of sorts for the anniversary of the book. And he basically sat back and said, like, well, I have enough here for another book. So we ended up releasing a longer book than the first one and looking at some modern problems. It was interesting to read his insight on the, what was the tipping point and what is a tipping point, and things like the white flight of 1800s, of the opioid crisis. There's a lot of minor things that you wouldn't think would add up, but I'd trust me on it. It was very engaging. I listened to the audiobook, and it's also very well produced. You hear the actual interviews that he did rather than just him reading quotes and things like that. Really sets the scene very well. Overall, I would call it like an interactive nonfiction book. It definitely had me thinking, and I felt better after reading it. I was like, you know what? This is really good. This is a really good piece. So go check out Revenge of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. If you're like me, you will not regret it. Jeremy, over to you.
So I am, I guess, going to review a game I've been playing a lot lately.
Okay.
Marvel Rivals, which is
let's hear
a
it.
new free-to-play kind of Overwatch clone / Overwatch killer. Hero shooter, I believe, is the genre. And I've been playing a lot of that. Been maining Mantis, which is not a character I expected to ever main. She's a healer, which is also not something I usually play, but they made healing like fun in this game somehow. I'm not good at it, but it's free and I'm having a blast. And I win it. The season pass doesn't, all these games, online games have these season passes now for earning all the cosmetics. Season passes do not expire. Ooh. And this one only cost $5. So I was like, I can do $5 and see how I feel about the season pass when I'm done. I don't know. I may not get another season pass, but I am having fun playing the game. They give you challenges every day. Some of them are character specifics to encourage you to kind of try out the whole roster. And you've got versus AI mode. You've got quick matches and you've got ranked matches once you get to at least level 10. So there's a good variety of ways to play. If you're just like, man, I just want to kick some butt, you just do practice versus easy AI. If you're like, I want to do some challenges, but I want something more challenging than the AI and something less challenging than ranked, I don't want to risk damaging my rank to do these silly challenges, and you can do quick matches. I've not seen any server issues. It's less than a week old, which is impressive. No server issues. The matches happen like instantly. Like I queue up and I'm already in a match. I do not have to wait at all. And of course it's Marvel. So if you like Marvel stuff, it's all there for you. Lots of fun characters. I'm sure they'll add more skins and it's really fun environments. I'm having a blast. Honestly, I didn't think I would enjoy it. I didn't hate Overwatch, but I never was able to get into it. Mm-hmm. I'm spending a fair amount of time with this game.
I love the art style of it as well. Just from what I've seen, it's a very like visually engaging game, which you would think most shooter games would have that quality, but not all of them do. So all right, I'll definitely, I might go download it on the PlayStation right now, Jeremy, and give it a shot. But that is going to do it for us today on the Royals Rundown podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. If you want to continue the conversation, you can do so on social media. You can follow both of us on Blue Sky, or you can follow along with the podcast on Twitter at Royal Rundown Pod.
Why isn't the podcast on Blue Sky, Jacob?
Without like a dedicated app to Blue Sky, I am finding trouble like keeping up with Blue Sky.
Don't you just get a dedicated app?
Do they have a dedicated app and I just haven't known about it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will go download it because I added like the website to my home screen. That's what I've been using. Okay, I stand corrected then. Well, maybe I'll go download that right now then. But we'll get the podcast on Blue Sky eventually. For now, I'm Jacob Milham. They are Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And until next time, go Royals.